So Sarah J. Maas has decided to make the giant leap from new adult to adult fiction, and not much has changed.
Same title format, same plucky young heroine falling in love with some dark and broody guy.
Yeah, the only difference is they talk about sex a little bit more.
And drugs!
Yeah, tons of drugs. Like all the drugs. So we will tell you exactly what is up with this new novel as soon as we chug all this wine. Our new heroine is Bryce, and she is a party girl. And I mean party, hardcore, walking home shoeless. What can she shove up her nose? Want to see me do a keg stand? I just threw up in my purse. Party girl.
But Bryce is only in her early 20s, and she has many years to straighten up, and living large with her college friends is all she really wants out of life right now.
But then her best friend, a powerful wolf shifter named Danica, is murdered along with her pack. Bryce is absolutely devastated, and it takes her 2 years to regain a sense of normalcy in her life, even though she's not truly okay.
Then, the governor of Crescent City, the Archangel Micah, comes and voluntells Bryce that she needs to find an ancient Fae artifact, the horn, and he assigns her his slave Hunt to help her out. The carrot being that whoever stole the horn was probably also the person who murdered Danica and the pack of devils.
Hunt has been made a slave as punishment for his rebellion against the established order hundreds of years ago. Micah uses him as an assassin, but he promises Hunt that when Hunt atones for all the thousands of deaths that he has taken during his rebellion on the battlefield, a life for a death, then Hunt will be free.
But the carrot Micah gives Hunt is that if Hunt finds the horn, Micah will drop his debt of thousands down to 10.
Bryce and Hunt have to work together, despite the fact that they are both extremely irritated by one another. But of course, the longer they spend in each other's company, the more desperate they are to get into each other's pants.
Did you forget that this is a Sarah J. Maas book?
How could I ever? But of course, figuring out who the murderer is isn't that simple. This is, after all, an 800-page book.
Things get complicated. Hunt's old crowmaster Sandriel comes to report on Micah, Bryce's father. The Fairy King also wants the horn. People connected to the horn are getting mysteriously murdered, and people hate Bryce and are kind of assholes, so lots of stuff.
The book does nothing quickly. The entire climax of the book is 175 pages.
The book is tied to its setting, and it's very well developed. The world of Crescent City glitters on top and has some seedy dark corners that you do not want to fall into. There's a land of the dead, a black market, a rich area, there's ancient magics, and forgotten temples dotting the entire city. There's a government, political hierarchies, a police force, and auxiliary city guards.
And in the wider world, you have all of that and the traditional Sarah J. Maas fairy lore. And the world is ruled by the Astari, beings with god-level powers, basically, that keep a hold on the empire and the cities within it with an iron grip.
I would put money on the idea that all of the Sarah J. Maas fairy books take place in one gigantic multi-world universe.
The story is very dependent on how well developed the setting is, and the setting does not let the plot down.
Crescent City feels like a real place set in a real world and gives the characters some great backup.
Speaking of characters, let's talk about the main character, Bryce. Bryce feels very much like Aylin and Fairy. She's smart, she's quippy, she's gorgeous, she's physically strong, she's spunky, she's interested in an art. Aylin played the piano, Fairy painted, Bryce dances, and basically they're very interchangeable in that respect.
But one of the things that makes Bryce unique from the other two Sarah J. Maas heroines is her grief. Her grief has ruined her life for a long time and colors a lot of who she is. It feels very real, and it can hit you in the feelings when you're least expecting it.
But then again, I think grief and trauma is something that Sarah J. Maas writes very well. I will never forget Fairy's breakdown in the beginning of ACOTAR. It was raw and it was gripping, and Bryce's level of emotion in this book has that same level of great writing.
Hunt, on the other hand, is fine. He has some bad things. He has a lot of regrets. His motives are mostly simple: avoid his former master, gain his freedom, get revenge. He's not really sure if he could ever love again, but his crotch says yes, even if his head is saying no.
He and Bryce don't get along at the beginning. Hunt assumes that Bryce is still a rich party girl, and Bryce thinks that Hunt is an alpha hole. And of course, their hostility to each other is a lot of fun to read, but it's not too long before everything for them is foreplay.
Because let's not forget, this is a Sarah J. Maas adult book. That means she can go as sexy as she wants, and when I say sexy, That means she just gets to say fuck a lot more.
It gets slightly more descriptive.
And has finish or drink level bad lines.
But not much else has changed.
She uses the word alpha hole a lot.
If you had to drink every time somebody used the word alpha hole, you'd look like Bryce at the beginning of the novel. Okay, let's pause. Let's talk about this whole alpha male, beta male thing she has going in this book.
Bryce is obsessed with not being controlled by dominant alpha males. She won't put up with them, she doesn't like them, she thinks that they're all alpha holes.
But she's so obsessed with not putting up with them that methinks the lady doth protest too much. I think she secretly kind of loves them. Or maybe it's just Sarah J. Maas that kind of secretly loves them? I don't know.
And we say that because every guy in a Sarah J. Maas novel is alpha, like all of them. Name one that wasn't.
You can't, because even if her male characters show introspection and emotional depth, there's always some point in the novel where Sarah J. Maas is describing how hot and manly and shirt-rippingly dangerous they are. No matter what, they're all just brimming with masculine energy.
And our heroines are into it, even when they're calling them alpha holes.
House of Blood and Earth very much reminds me of Kara Marie Moning's series. It has that same dynamic where the alpha males are running around and the heroine says that she doesn't want an alpha male, but secretly she is very into his alphaness.
I'd be really interested in an essay examining the concept of alphas in female written romances. Maybe we'll even write it one day. But that time is not now.
If you want to find out what happens in this book plot-wise, you're going to have to check out our spoiler review. But speaking of the plot generally, I'll say this. A lot happens in this novel. Again, it's 800 pages, but despite its length, it keeps you engaged.
That's what she said.
You know what? There were a lot worse jokes in this book. I will give it a pass. My standards are low. No. I heard it. Do not say it. Okay, so there are a ton of secondary characters and they're all very well written and they all feel different from one another and they all have a great place in the plot.
Which is a feat because it would be really easy for many secondary characters to come off as unnecessary.
Overall, if I had to describe House of Blood and Earth, it's kind of like if a Hollywood summer blockbuster had a baby with your smutty beach romance.
It's cheesy, over the top, occasionally over dramatic, but also a lot of fun.
There is some great writing in this novel, paired with some really awful writing, but the awful parts hit the so bad it's good level. I found myself flying through House of Blood and Earth, and if you love Kara Marie Moning, you're definitely gonna love this book.
Of course, this is the first part of the Crescent City series, and we will bitch and whine and groan about having to read the next book, but when we get our hands on that book, we're gonna read it right away.
So we will see you maybe in a year or two when the sequel comes out. But until then, bye guys!
So we're off to a super good start. I'm making pancakes, and Chelsea is reading the wrong book.
I met a mayor the other day who was so hot you could have fried an egg on his 10 billion abs. Cheers.
We just got to the vampire bit, if you're following along.
So how their sex scenes doing, Chelsea?
What was that, Chelsea?
Nope. Some things need not be repeated out loud.